Email marketing is one of the most powerful ways to grow your business, but there's some things you really need to know. And so in this video, I'm actually going to be interviewing my brand manager who handles all my email marketing, and she's a rock star. And so we're going to learn a lot of stuff today about, how to get headlines that make people want to click immediately, how to get people to read your emails more, and how to really make the difference between an email that goes to the spam folder and one that somebody's actually replying to and getting you a lot more bookings. So let's dive in. I want to introduce Kylie.
Hey everyone.
Even Tony, the other day, he was like, how does Kylie do email so good? He was impressed. And so, I know you started working with me about a year ago. What have you learned about email marketing? How has it changed?
I mean, you kind of taught me everything about email marketing. Let's be honest. I'm not used to writing emails for sure. And I think you were like, okay, well, can you write me an email, about this YouTube video that you did or something? And I was like, okay. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me forever. And you're like, just use ChatGPT. And I was like, okay. So then you kind of showed me how to do it and it was good. But, that's when I first started and I really didn't know that much about like you and your style. I was just trying to figure everything out. So when you showed me how to do it and then I tried to do it and I was like, well, ChatGPT is like my best friend now. I literally could not live without it. But now I know Jake a lot and I've pretty much trained ChatGPT to understand Jake. And I can ask like, who's Jake Randolph? And ChatGPT will, give me a list of who you are. My ChatGPT probably thinks I'm Jake Randolph because that's how much like I use it for, emails and just posts and everything in general. But
the problem with ChatGPT is a lot of people use it, but they don't understand how to use it correctly. And so I can tell when somebody uses it and it sounds generic. And so how do you make it to where it actually sounds like I do?
Yeah. So like I said, I trained it in Jake's tone. So I could say it's all about what you tell it. So I'm like, hey, I'm trying to write an email about this YouTube video that Jake just did about ads. It's mostly about Facebook ads. I'll tell it the target audience, this is tailored to beauty professionals, but can you write it so a woman would be interested in reading it? Because ChatGPT is just going to give you a intelligent answer or email or whatever, but it just doesn't sound relatable. So you have to literally tell it what you want it and how you want it to sound.
Yeah, and I know our audience is a lot of beauty professionals, and when they're doing their email marketing, a lot of times I see that they sound too technical, they sound too scientific because, for example, like an esthetician, they're skincare experts, but the average person doesn't understand the lingo, doesn't understand the terminology. So how could they use ChatGPT to make it to where it's more relatable?
Yeah, it depends like who they're trying to talk to. If they're trying to talk to someone that's in their 20s, email might be a little different or just their vibe, their tone. Yeah. You could say, hey, ChatGPT, write this email, kind of talking to a person, a Gen Z person, but it kind of depends on the service. Because if you have a service that's mostly tailored to older women, you might, format your email differently.
Now let's take a step back from AI for a second, from ChatGPT, because there are a lot of fundamental principles that I taught you before we even started using that for emails. So let's dive into what I think is the most important to begin with, and that's headlines. What are some guidelines that I gave you for headlines?
All lowercase are all capitalized. So that was like, when he told me that, I was like, Jake, no way. Then he was like, well, if you think about it, you get an email and everything's lowercase, you automatically catches your eye. I'm like, he's right. And then, thinking about it, like I do get emails and it's a perfect, subject line. Every first word is capitalized and it's just kind of like, okay, this is probably so boring. But you kind of, it's like clickbait, but it works because people open the email and,
Yeah, it's all about standing out, because if you look like every other business, people are just going to assume you're like every other business. And so if you want to stand out in a saturated market, you have to figure out, how do I look different?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. But that, and then also keeping it short. So I think you told me like not more than 5 words.
Yeah.
Because you want to be able, like when you receive the email, you want to be able to like kind of see it on your phone on the notification and kind of read it and get an idea of what it is. Also like urgency, like urgent, add emojis, make it fun. Don't make it perfect because most of the time people aren't going to open it.
Yeah, another thing is creating curiosity. And so when somebody reads it, they're like, what the heck are they talking about? Or, oh, I got to find out more. And they click and go read.
Yeah. And then you also taught me the RE2 method. So sometimes like the first email I'll send out, Jake taught me this trick, but if you do parentheses, RE, and then close the parentheses, 2, and then the colon, it shows like you already had a conversation with the person in that email. So it's like you're responding to the email. Yep. And I was like, oh my gosh, how'd you figure that out? But it works. I mean, sometimes like those have higher open rates than the ones that I don't do with. So
yeah. And I know we're talking about email marketing, and some of my listeners or viewers might not even have email marketing. And so let's talk about some platforms. I know we use ActiveCampaign, but I'll give them some other ones. MailChimp is free. I think ConvertKit does pretty good. Now, if you're just starting, you're struggling to grow your business, I recommend MailChimp. Also, we have a platform called BeautyBiz AI. You can do email marketing on that. Now let's talk about the body of the email. When somebody clicks in there, what are some things that you used to do that you no longer do?
Paragraphs. Oh my gosh, don't do that anymore. My emails that I write now are super easy to read. A 5th grader can read them, but it's still interesting and educational. You know, everything's one sentence, one line. Also, if I'm like trying to group things together, I'll do like a bullet list form, add emojis, always add a PS. But yeah, I mean, it's super easy to read because I find, like, I agree with you when you taught me this, that when it's just like a big paragraph, you're kind of not looking at it. Like, you just get lost in the words. Yeah. So that's why it's important to, bold, you maybe italicize.
And more specifically, you bold what you want people to focus on.
Correct.
And so as the writer, a lot of people don't think about how they're writing things, but writing is the #1 form of communication. And so if you can control what people focus on, you're much more likely to get them to take the desired action.
Yeah, correct. Oh, and then another thing we really didn't talk about was like adding pictures and things in the email. So most of the time, like, I always try and add a picture of Jake, or maybe results. Maybe we're going over, tips. So I'll add in a graphic about that. It's always good. I always prefer the image at the top, like before, hey, Susie or whatever. But if you wanted to, you could even start off with, hey, and then, we just figured out this amazing tip, or listen to a successful story about one of our clients. Look at the results. And then you add the picture in the middle of the body, and then you kind of like go under that and form around it. That's another good idea. It kind of breaks it up, so it's nice.
As far as timing goes, what is the best time that you found to send emails?
Morning or night. So morning, probably depending on your time zone, like 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. That's probably like the latest I would do. Yeah. Oh, lunchtime's good too. So noon, people are on lunch break. They're going to open up their phones, check their emails, and then nighttime. So like around like 6, 7.
So yeah, that makes sense. Morning and evenings, because I'm either like checking my phone in the morning and clearing out my emails real quick, or I'm waiting to the end of the day to clear my inbox. And so usually in the middle of the day, I try not to do as much email marketing. And you got to think about it with somebody's customers. They're probably at work. They're doing a 9-to-5 job, so they don't always have time to check their own personal email. Now, for a beauty professional, what tips, like easy to follow tips, would you give them to get higher open rates and then get more replies?
I would probably, again, starting with the subject line, and you need to track them to open up your email. Mm-hmm. So I would start off with that, definitely try and work on that. And I mean, most of, beauty professionals do other, like they don't just normally do one service. So what's good about emails, you can kind of group up what particular clients is, maybe looking for eyebrows or lashes. So you can, if you have a promotion or something you want to send an email out about, you can just send it to that specific group.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or you could even make the email not more, you can structure it like more broad. Like you can say, hey, like, I know your lashes look amazing, but have you ever thought about getting your brows done? Like something like that. Because I mean, when we do podcasts or everything, like most of the time I send it to everyone, but sometimes they aren't for everyone, and that's where I can group them together and send it to a specific person.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. We call that segmenting your audiences. And so for those watching or listening, think about who you're sending the email to. You know, if you want to send it out to everybody, then, you know, send it to everybody, but you don't want to send a promotional email sometimes to a customer who's already paid you. So maybe you want to exclude them. And so that's getting a little advanced, and you don't have to do that stuff, but start thinking about, like, you know, if they've already been a client with you, like let's say they've done brows with you, tag them or put them into a list of brow clients. That way, you know, like Kylie said, when you want to go in and say, hey, I know you've got your brows done before, but now we have this new service, you can do that. But at the end of the day, I want you guys to take action as far as, like, you know, I know email marketing can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, and that's why we're trying to help you out with these free tips. But, you know, don't get caught up in the details, just get started, take imperfect action. All right, so we've talked about ChatGPT, you know, we've talked about those tools. So if you've been watching this or listening to this for a minute, we actually saved some of the best stuff for last. And so it sucks to be somebody who already turned this off, but
about to hit gold.
yeah, you're about to get some really good. I've never shared this before. So what tool besides ChatGPT do we now use to write emails?
Claude AI. So here's what I do. I think ChatGPT is very spot on with getting all of my ideas together. And I'll say, write me an email about this, about Jake doing this, or talking about this client doing this. And it'll give me a very generic email. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like, you can just know. So even if I like kind of put it in your tone and make it sound like you, it still kind of sounds like you. So then Jake found this golden Claude AI. So it's even better than ChatGPT for that specific reason, emails.
And let me explain why real quick. So with artificial intelligence is a very broad term. ChatGPT is like one kind of brain for AI. Claude is coming from a different system. And so ChatGPT is better for certain things like logic or coding or, you know, certain types of information, whereas Claude is better at writing. It was designed for writing. Yeah.
So it literally knows Jake, flows, tone. I can say, make Jake sound cooler. It'll sound cool. And I don't know.
I definitely need that.
It's easier to work with than chat and in that form. Put the email that ChatGPT wrote for me, copy and paste it into Claude AI and say, you know, make it sound more cool, laid back, or, you know, more urgent or tailored to this specific person. I love Claude AI too for that specific reason.
I'm actually surprised at how many beauty professionals we meet that are not doing email marketing. So for example, like, you know, cancellations, they have no shows and they don't have some kind of message or email that they can send that says, I'll give you guys an exact script. And so when you get a cancellation, you can literally send out an email that says, hey, first name, we just had an opening up at 2 p.m., you know, and you're on my VIP list. Would you like to go ahead and take that appointment? If you want to fill that spot, I will give you a bonus $25 gift card. Let me know or reply yes, and I'm going to take the first person that replies.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, literally, you can get ChatGPT to write it out for you or Claude AI.
And then you can just set it up as a template in whatever platform you use.
Yeah, that's so smart. I think everyone should be doing that.
And just to get into one more advanced thing, which I've actually been talking with you a lot recently, is sequences. And so, you know, when someone inquires on your services, or for example, for us, when someone downloads our Google Business Guide, our book, you know, instead of just having one email that sends them the book, we should be having an email that's like 1 day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, and we're just providing value. We're giving them more information. We're nurturing, because that's what business is building relationships. We're nurturing our clients just like our clients should be nurturing their potential clients. So speaking of free stuff, we actually have a ChatGPT training class I filmed last week. It's about an hour long. You were there.
Go check it out.
People loved it, and we're going to give it away for free. It's actually in our beauty growth community, and so we'll put a link below for you guys to join that free group. It's kind of like a Facebook group without the drama and the ads. There's a ton of great courses on there that we provide, including that ChatGPT training, including the Google Business Guide I booked, or book that I mentioned earlier. And so you're going to have access to all that, and it's completely free. Now, just like we were talking about earlier off camera, I don't think it's going to be free for much longer. And so those who get in free now, you'll get to stay in there for free. But after that, we're going to start charging people who are not in yet. So definitely get in. Hopefully it's still free by the time you're watching or listening to this, but we'll put the link below for you to go check it out.
Yeah. And one more thing, I feel like ChatGPT and Claude AI, it's only getting more advanced, and people are now figuring out ChatGPT, and like they kind of know what sounds like it, what doesn't. So I think having the two, ChatGPT and Claude AI, and just making it sound more like you, and people are going to notice that and they're going to be like, oh, this doesn't sound like, they actually thought about this email. I'm like, oh yeah. Tony's like, man, Kylie's been writing some good emails. I'm like, thanks.
And you have been, like, credit to you, because it's not just about the tool. Like, the way I use a basketball and the way LeBron James uses a basketball is totally two different results.
Yeah.
And so you got to learn this stuff. And that's why, if they're watching or listening, hopefully they've learned some great tips. And by the way, if you are watching this on YouTube or listening to this podcast, it would mean the world to us if you would just share this with another business owner, whether that's a beauty professional or not. Share this video, share this podcast. And, that's all we ask.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kylie.
Thanks, Jake.